First of all, I'd like to remind everyone about the importance of the study of the Zohar. Every now and again we have to repeat it because we forget about it. Reality consists of the world of Ein Sof through Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, and this world. And we are below the barrier, below the line that separates us from the spiritual worlds. Our soul is inside the worlds of Bia. The souls are there where he's showing. The root of the soul is in the world of Atzilut. And from the world of Atzilut, from Patzuf Arichanpin, there's a special Patzuf there called Keter of Atzilut. That's where we really are. That's our corrected place. And that's our starting place. And from there we decline to this world, clothe a corporal body, and our work is our efforts to return to our original place. How do we come down here? That is explained extensively in Talmud Sfirot, the study of the 10 Sfirot. It's not so important for us right now. It's a given thing that we're born with. How do we get up there? That's our work. Rav wrote our work. So we have to do that during our lifetime. A person has to do it in one lifetime from wherever point he is at to the end of correction to the root of the soul. How is that done? By which forces do we improve ourselves and correct our soul that is in the worst position called this world, as opposed to the correct situation, which is called the end of correction of the soul? That way consists of many situations. Each of them is called a degree, and all in all there are 6,000 degrees, also called years. 6,000 degrees or years. So we have to just climb those degrees one by one until we come to the end of correction. Where do we get the force, the strength to improve, to correct ourselves so that we can, despite gravity here, which is our ego, how can we, despite our ego which pulls us down, how can we rise? That's the light that performs. The light that shines from this point, from Arichanpin, called Zohar. That's why this book is called Zohar. Zohar is a shine, an illumination. And the light that shines from above downward is called surrounding light. And it's got the power, even though we're below the barrier, right there, It shines between the world of Atzilut and the world of Biyah. There's another partition there between Atzilut and Biyah called Parsa. But still, the light shines, the surrounding light from above, from up there, down on us. Its illumination from afar is capable of correcting us. How? If we want it to correct us, if we ask for it to come, that request is called man. Meinukvin man. According to the intensity of the request, the plea, comes the mud, mind chuin, from above, which is the force that comes from above, the response. So, how do we activate these forces? We don't understand anything, we're just reading the book, we hardly understand the words. They're written in Aramaic, in Hebrew, in a difficult language. We're not used to it. How do we get along with all these things? The Zohar speaks of such things that perhaps it takes a special course in university for several years to understand everything it talks about. The thing is that that's not the case. They say that in order to attract the light, to give it the force, to enter the spiritual world, to feel it you're rising in the world, ascending, in attainment, in feeling. You don't have to be smart for that. You don't have to be so intellectual. Because the light itself gives us an additional sense. It gives us a special feeling that enables us to feel these vibrations, the upper world. It comes from within. It prepares these vessels in us, provided we want it. We can read about it, how Baal Sulam writes about it in the introduction to Talmud Esel Sfirot, the study of the 10 Sfirot. In item 155 of the introduction to Talmud Esel Sfirot, says there's a special book where we keep all our main texts that we studied during the first year. It is called Kabbalah Matchil, Kabbalah for beginners, or for the beginner. It's not the Kabbalah for beginners that we have in English. It's got pretty much everything we need for the first year and more. So here, in Introduction to the Study of the 10 Sfirot, item 155, it says that Kabbalists wrote many books, and though we don't understand anything, however hard we try, and they must have written those books to one another for Kabbalists who have attainment already, so they could write to one another, and from one generation to the next convey their ideas and understandings, and just, like scientists in an ordinary science, same as they do. He says, yes, it's true, that's what Kabbalists do. But, he says, there's a very special thing here. For people who are not Kabbalists, for ordinary people who don't understand anything, just want to somehow feel spirituality. What can we do with it? How can we, by which force can we also become Kabbalists and feel the upper worlds? So he says in the introduction to the study of the 10th Sefirot, item 155, therefore we must ask. So we don't understand anything in the Kabbalah books. Why then did Kabbalists obligate each person, yes, they say that everyone has to delve in the wisdom of Kabbalah. Indeed, there is a weighty thing here worthy of being publicized. So not only do they obligate us to study, they also obligate us to publicize it, to circulate it. That there's a magnificent and valuable remedy to those who delve in the wisdom of Kabbalah. If you study Kabbalah correctly, there's a possibility to receive some remedy. Everyone wants a remedy, because it's something, whether you're worthy or not, you're given it, and it improves your life. So, what is the remedy? That although they do not understand what they're learning, they open a book and hardly understand it. They perhaps even they can't read it, or they do read it but don't understand what they're learning. But through the yearning and the great desire to understand what they're learning, all it takes is desire, not understanding, not anything else, only desire. To the extent of the desire, they awaken upon themselves the light that surrounds their souls. Meaning that each man from Israel is guaranteed to finally attain all these wonderful attainments. There's not a person who can't and must, everyone must attain his soul, the root of his soul in Arichanpin of the world of Atzilut. That's where we come from and that's where we have to go. Which God has resolved in the thought of creation to grant each creature. The pleasure that we are supposed to get at the end, that we must get at the end, whether we like it or not, we must come to the root of our souls. But he who has not attained it in this life will attain it in the next, and so on. How many times does he have to go until he has completed that which he preliminary thought of? So before we rise in the ladder until we complete and really come there to Arichanpin. And while man has not attained perfection, meaning did not complete, climb to the top of the ladder, the root of his soul, these lights are destined to come to him, that he should finally receive them as pleasant lights that give him completeness, eternity. That's the design of creation, to receive those lights. So these lights that he still can't receive, they're deemed surrounding lights. What does that mean? That means that they stand ready for him. They're waiting for him to cleanse his vessels of reception. And then they will clothe the able vessels. So we learn below and the lights await above. What happens in the meantime? In the meantime, they're just waiting. But it says no. Even when the vessels are absent, though I don't have the right vessels, the corrected vessels, to feel, the senses to feel spirituality, this light of infinity. Even now, when one delves in this wisdom, mentioning the names of the lights and the vessels related to his soul, because the Kabbalah speaks about us. And whatever we read, it always concerns us, each and every soul. So if we mention the names, the lights and vessels and all these things, and want to have it as a reality where we live, they right away illuminate him to a certain degree, according to our desire. However, they illuminate him without dressing inside his soul, because he's not ready yet. since he doesn't have the vessels needed to receive them. Indeed, the illumination one receives time and again from afar, yes? The illumination only exists down to the barrier, but below it, it just surrounds it, everything. But whenever he takes a book, it illuminates him every morning, every evening. So when studying, it draws upon him grace from above. These lights give him, what is grace from above? It's when he begins to want something that is what spirituality really is, and not what he imagines, things that are perhaps their worldly pleasures, but he somehow deceives himself. So now he begins to really like it, for it to be graceful in his eyes, imparting him with a bounty of sanctity and purity. A person doesn't feel how it happens. They just work on him from within, without him knowing it, which greatly furthers one toward one's perfection. So suddenly he begins to feel this spiritual reality. And that's what we have to remember while studying the Zohar, that we're studying for that. It doesn't matter how much we understand, and we will understand, because we are learning something about the structure of the soul, about how the soul exists in the worlds, the structure of the worlds, the interconnections, how the souls rise through the worlds to the purpose of creation, the place where they came from, where they have to go back. What is the benefit of going down and then climbing up again? All these things we'll slowly study in the Zohar. But it doesn't really matter how much we study. What matters is how much we want to attract, pull down this force from above, how much we think about getting from above this illumination that will draw us to the root of our soul. How did Kabbalists write in such a way that each person receives according to the root of his soul? They didn't have to do that, but it's a uniform root above. It's a single root. In Arichanpin, there is up there in Arichanpin, we are as one vessel called man, Adam, which is the sum total of all the souls. Each and every one of us is up there. So Kabbalists write about this structure. They don't write about each soul individually. They write about the rules by which this structure exists. It's called man in general, and each soul is in there as a part of it, of that structure. And they write to us about the connection between us, how we connect with one another, and how this creature called Adam exists, and its surroundings, which is called world, or his world, and the connection between this Adam and his world, in all the degrees and in the final state. That's what they write about. So because they talk about the collective vessel, where we are all united, connected together, so it doesn't matter who gets the book. It is a part of the first man, of this man, Adam. And when a person in this world takes it, he gets the illumination from the root of the soul. The book can come to the worst person, complete villain, or to a righteous, or to a fool, or to a smart person. It doesn't matter. We all come from there. That's where we come from to this world. That's why in this world, when we begin to read it, from there, from the origin of the souls, comes the surrounding light. It is the same light that fills us there, and we are actually there, our roots. We only came down here and only to rise back up there by ourselves. So, in fact, it is intended for everyone, and Kabbalists obligate every person to study Kabbalah, because before each person completes the intention of the Creator regarding him, and before each person returns to the root of the soul, the structure is incomplete, and no one attains his complete and eternal degree. There's a question about the quality of the effort. He writes in the introduction to the study of the 10 Sefirot that there's the quantity of the effort, which is how much time you put into it. He says it's not so important. That's why Kabbalists say that everyone must study and work and have a family and will serve. You have to be an ordinary citizen. And besides that, that free time that you have, you need to dedicate some time to the study of Kabbalah. That's enough. The quantity isn't so important. What determines is the quality. The quality means how much when you study, how much it hurts you that you're not in there yet. That's why he says in item 155, your desire. That's what awakens the surrounding light. So if you're studying for 10 years, but you have no desire, but you're just used to it, or you get paid for it, whatever, or it's not really, burning in your bones, then you don't draw the surrounding light that reforms. Reformation means to return to the root of the soul, to return to Arichan Pin of Atzilut. So the effort is not in the quantity, but in the quality, and that's what we have to concern ourselves with. Now, how do I come to a state where it hurts me that I'm not in spirituality? I haven't attained the purpose of creation yet. I have other problems in life: a family, wife, kids, boss, mortgage, whatever. But there's also Kabbalah, or I'm curious a little bit about it. I have a little bit of emptiness, but how do I intensify this feeling of emptiness to such a degree that I will attract this surrounding light and just jump and finish all these degrees in a few years and come straight to the root of my soul? Bala Sulam, in the article The Freedom, talks about it. He says that increasing the need for the surrounding light to pull you to the upper world, you can only do that through the environment. Man is the only creature that senses the other, and because it's got these inclinations of envy and lust and pursuit of honors, he can feel the pleasure and pain of the other, what the other wants or doesn't want, likes and dislikes, and that gives him additional desires from outside. In simple words, it is like advertisement that we just have to advertise within ourselves how much the desire for spirituality is a necessity in order to attain our purpose in life, the answer to the meaning of our lives. To increase, intensify this question and get an answer for it, it only depends on our environment, to the point that the more we study together in one group and talk about it and think about it, our thoughts will roam the place of our study and help us increase the desires. And then we'll have the quality and the quantity of the effort, of the labor, sufficient to attain the goal. Let's read a little bit. We're studying Zohar, Bereshit, page 75, item 70. It doesn't matter if you were not here. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the Zohar speaks only about the same situation. We, opposite the upper world, the upper force, how we can rise to it, how we can be in it. Item 70, Zohar Bereshit, page 75. The words, as the bow, which is said about the chariot of Yechezkel, means the eternal life, Chai Olamim, meaning the Yesod of Zohar, as it says in the Parashat Noach, my bow. There too it means Yesod the Zohar. De means of in English, called Chai Olamim. Why is Yesod the Zohar called Chai Olamim? Because there's the structure. We said that the world of Atzilut is the source of everything. The world of Atzilut consists of several Patzufim: Atik, Arichanpin, Abba Ve'ima, Zeranpin, and Malchut. And Patzuf Zeranpin is called Kadosh Baruch Hu, Creator. And from this Patzuf Zeranpin, called Kadosh Baruch Hu, there are 10 Sfirot. Here, I'll write them over there. Keter, Chochmah, Bina, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Chod, Yesod, Malchut. The Sfira Yesod is the summation of all the Sfirot above. It collects all of them and gives Malchut, which is actually the receiver. Malchut is the vessel. So Yesod is like the light, and Malchut is the vessel, the soul. So that's why Yesod is called Chai Olamim, eternal life. Why is it called Chai? Life. Because until Yesod we have a 9 Sfirot, and we get another 9 Sfirot in returning light. And Chai means 18 in Hebrew numeric value. Gematria, it's called. If you perform a Zivug Da'aka with a screen, when Malchut doesn't receive, but the light comes down, the 9 Sfirot, performing Zivug Da'aka, activating all the lights in order to bestow. That's the creator up there, that's and the creature below, and the creature returns everything back, and that fills him, that gives him life. That's why it's called Chai. That's why Chai 18 is a sign of life, because it's 9 of direct light and 9 Sfirot of returning light. And from this Yesod come all the lights that come to the worlds of B'riyat Asiyah and the souls there. In other words, we receive from Yesod the Zeranpin. That's our source of life. That's why it is called Chai Olamim, eternal life. the world below Parsa, where the souls live, they all live by Yesod Zeranpin. It says about the cloud, meaning Malchut, meaning the lower Nukva of Zeranpin, which is the revealed maid Rachel. As it is said, I have given in the cloud, meaning that since the day the world was created, he put the rainbow in the cloud. On the cloudy day there, he says there, meaning, and it was a cloudy day to indicate that only then is the bow apparent, and not at any time. Malchut is called Shchinta, divinity, the sum total of all the souls. That just as we say that all the souls are really in man, but when they're in man, it is our final form, when all the souls collect as one heart, one soul, one man, one system. So Malchut of Atzilut, the last Sphira of Atzilut, consists of all the souls. They're all contained in Malchut, and she receives from Yesod. This Malchut receives from Yesod. This is Malchut, and this is Yesod. We've already learned that Zeranpin toward Malchut he's got two states, two phases. When it is complete in 10 Sfirot, at which time it is called Israel, and its female, its Nukva is Leah, and a screen that is half the degree, which is called Katnut, smallness. These are the 10 Sfirot of Gadlut, and these are half of it called Katnut, smallness, as opposed to greatness or adulthood. And then it is called Yaakov, Jacob, instead of Israel, and its Nukva, its female, is called Rachel. We'll slowly get used to the words, to the terms, names. We'll hear them again and again and again, and as we go deeper into the Zohar, we'll begin to understand why the Torah is written that way, and these names will be understood by us when we read the Torah afterwards and begin to interpret them internally, what Moses really meant. The Kabbalists who attained the upper world, he didn't relate to people in this world, physical people. He wasn't talking about them, but he was talking about forces, spiritual attributes that he thought of when he wrote the Torah, the Pentecost. So we'll get used to these terms and will not connect them with the physical shapes of this world. So he says that the bow in the cloud are Zeranpin and Malchut. The rainbow in the cloud are Zeranpin and Malchut. Kabbalists use it in many places. Reading on. And he explains that when the left overpowers, meaning when Zeranpin and Rachel are contained in Yesud as a point of shuruk, which is the left, because it is wisdom without mercy. And Rachel remains empty even of chokhmah, of wisdom, and cannot tolerate this emptiness. Then Rachel leaves Yesud and becomes her own state, her own parzuf, to extend the degree of mercy on her own screen in order to clothe the wisdom, which is the unification of the point of chirik. And she has difficulties in her birth, in giving birth, because it is considered that Rachel has difficulties when giving birth to the Mochin, which is a lot of wisdom, because her exit from the upper hall of Yesut to her own aspect is a diminution for her. What is it trying to say? The bounty that comes from above can be received in us only if we have equivalence of form with this bounty. The bounty that comes has the equivalence, the form of the Creator, form of bestowal, to the extent that a person also has the power, the desire to bestow, giving instead of receiving, in other words, the opposite of our nature. To that extent, a person can discover the upper world, receive the bounty, and discover the Creator. There's no iron wall between spirituality and corporeality. It is in our attributes. If we invert our attributes somehow to be compatible with the light, to the extent that we can make them compatible, we will feel the light. It is like a radio receiver. It receives only according to the wavelength inside its antenna. All our senses are built the same way. They receive only things that, external things that we have an ability to create them inside us. We have the same frequencies inside as outside, and those frequencies we receive from outside because of the equivalence of form. And so by the same law, the spiritual sense is built. The more we attain the attributes, the spiritual attributes, we will be able to feel the spiritual world. And that's what the surrounding light does when it shines on us. Because it shines from the upper world, it puts into us, creates in us this attribute of the upper world, because that's where it comes from. This attribute, besides being called bestowal, it is also called the light of mercy. The light that comes from above is called the light of wisdom. The light that the creature wants to give back to the source, to the Creator, is called the light of mercy. So, to the extent that the creature has the light of mercy, the giving, to that extent, he clothes the light of wisdom, the revelation of the Creator, the spirituality. It all depends on that. The creature determines how much we discover the spiritual world, how much we can feel the spiritual life, complete life, eternal life. It all depends on the evolution of the returning light, our light of mercy. The light that stands waiting for us to want to receive it in order to bestow is called shuruk. And when we draw that light, we bring to it our vessels of bestowal. We bring our light of mercy against it. So that's when we work with a point of chirik. Chirik is a point below the letters. Each letter is a body. Above the letters means that the lights still don't come to us, don't reach us. When the point is, and the lights above the letters are called cholam. Lights inside the letters are called shuruk. And we are below the parsa, below Atzilut. The letters are in Atzilut already. So below Atzilut, we receive the lights in the form of chirik. How do we receive them? To the point that we can draw toward to the point that we have light of mercy to contradict the light of wisdom, we can feel that the light of wisdom fills us. Continuing to read. For the mochin is not completed and created only when it exits as chirik. And the reason is, now we understand the reason why the rainbow is apparent only on a cloudy day, because the mochin is not completed. Mochin is light of wisdom, and as a point of cholam alone, which is the right line, but it needs the unifications of the point of shuruk and chirik, which are judgments, and they are called a cloudy day. We also talked about the lights. We perceive them as lines. There's one line. When there's one line, it's just light that comes from above as bounty. But then we have our will to receive the vessel. So to the extent that we can equalize them to make the attributes of the light in the vessel equal, that our light of mercy, the returning light, will match precisely the direct light that comes as light of wisdom. Then we create a zivug, a meeting between them, and mating between them, and our soul is filled with light. The vessel is the desire for pleasure. Inside there is the light of mercy that we want, spirituality, and then it is filled with the light of wisdom. So we usually work in 3 lines: right, left, and the middle, which is our soul, our corrected soul. That climbs between those 2 lines up to the root of our soul. This ascent from our situation to our origin is by this method called 3 lines: right, left, and middle. Now, there is no other way. In each ascent comes by equivalence of form, to the extent that the attributes of the Creator, the light, and the attributes of the creature, the vessel, equalize. To that extent, the creature, we, will feel the spiritual world and the upper world. The light that comes into our vessel, into our soul, is how much we feel the world. Just as now I have 5 senses. Behind them there's the mechanism that gets their impressions, and my impressions of the 5 senses enters my brain, and then I feel that I'm in some kind of a world. If I cut off these wires from my eyes, from my nose, from my ears, from my mouth, I won't feel anything. I won't have a world. My 5 senses give me a sensation of the world, and then I won't be able to exist, to know where I exist. I will have no feeling that I exist. The same goes for spirituality. When we feel that we don't exist in spirituality, it is because there's a detachment between my feeling and this sense, this 6th sense. It is cut off from me. How do I reconnect it? Only this returning light can do it, this form of bestowal, light of mercy. The minute I connect this 6th sense, I begin to feel that I'm in the upper world. Just as when my senses were disconnected and suddenly the doctors come and connect me, and I get the feeling that I exist in the world. So the stronger we can connect, or the broader the band of connection, the more I feel the spiritual world as illuminated, as big. And those are the degrees. We can't connect the spiritual sense all together, all at once. We do it gradually. there's like a valve that opens up gradually, that connects the sixth sense to me. And those degrees of connection are called degrees of attainment, degrees of sensation of the upper world. So our work is to install this sixth sense in us, that to the extent that the more we use it, the more we're able to use it, the more we'll feel that we exist in the spiritual world. It's a relative thing.